Okay, Kyle, nice to meet you.
You too.
Yes. I thought it would be a good idea to get together with you since you're just getting your license to talk to you about insurance and see if you have any questions, anything that you're thinking about.
Yeah. So when I go to the DMV to take my driving test, do I need to be on a parent's policy at that point?
No, you don't really need to be on the policy until you actually get your license. You can drive as a permitted driver without being on the policy. All you need when you go to get your license is proof of insurance. So this is a proof of insurance for the car, and my card is on that. So they'll want to be sure the car you're driving is insured. That's all the DMV will care about. So,
how does a new driver typically go about insuring their vehicle?
Typically, a young driver is going to be added to the parents' policy. That's the least expensive way because there's usually a multiple car discount, a multiple policy discount, and young drivers pay a lot more than older drivers. If you do buy a car down the road, it would be best to buy a car that doesn't need what's typically called full coverage, which means physical damage coverage, because with the young driver, all the costs are surcharged, so they're more expensive the more coverages you have. So I would recommend an older car. Don't go out and buy a new Lexus. You know, buy something that's older that doesn't have a loan on it, and that's the least expensive way to do it. Kyle, your mom is carrying liability coverage of $250,000 per person. So if you hit somebody and they get hurt, we will cover that person injuries for $250,000 and $500,000 per occurrence. So if there's more than one person in the car, Allstate could spend up to $500,000 for your accident. So that's a big number. If you're hit by an uninsured motorist, it's the same, $250,000 per person, $500,000 per occurrence. Medical, if you're injured, you're covered by your medical plan, right?
Right.
You're covered up to $5,000 by your car insurance also. So that would supplement your mom's medical plan on you, like if she has a deductible, for example, then you don't have to worry about that. There's $5,000 would cover that. Collision is a coverage that covers your car. If you're in an accident and your car is damaged, you pay the first $500, we pay the rest to fix it or replace it.
All right.
And then comprehensive covers things like fire, theft, vandalism, windows, things that aren't your fault, and that deductible is $100. Rental car coverage of $30 a day, so if you do damage the car, we provide a rental car up to a cost of $30 a day.
And again, that's if I'm on a parent's policy?
That's her coverage,
okay.
And so that coverage is what you would enjoy as well. And again, it's what most people call full coverage, but in the insurance industry we don't really use that language much because there's no really such thing as full coverage. But that's what covers the car as well as the other people and people in your car as well.
And if someone did need to start their own policy, how would that process go?
If for some reason someone needed their own policy, whether it be a young driver or not, you have to own a car. You have to have an insurable interest in the car, so it has to be in your name. You have to have a driving record that qualifies you for getting insurance with a particular company. Every company has different rules about that sort of thing. And of course you have to have financial resources to pay for it. So basically you have to own a car and have a pretty good driving record. So that's not generally what's done with young drivers because you would lose a lot of discounts that your mother gets now for having multiple policies and multiple cars. All those discounts add up, so normally you'd save 30% or more by being on your mom's policy. Okay. So since you have a good grade point average, you're a 3-point?
Yeah, over that.
Over 3-point, very good. So you're going to pick up that discount. And then there's a course that we have available online that teaches you about driving and safety. If you pass that test, you would pick up 15% discount a year for your first 5 years of driving. So It costs about $80 to take the test and the class, and it takes about 8 hours to complete it. But 15% a year at, you know, maybe $1,000 a year, it's certainly worthwhile from a cost point of view to do that. The reason that it is expensive is because young drivers have more accidents, unfortunately. The statistics say that over 5,000 kids die every year in a car crash. That's a lot. That's 11 a day. And in my business, unfortunately, I've seen it happen, and that's not counting the other 400,000 who get hurt every year. So they say that the crash rates of 16-year-olds is twice as great as 18 and 19-year-olds, and 7 times as great as 30-year-olds. So 7 times. So the cost of insurance isn't 7 times, but it's certainly high. But that's the reason, because there's a lot of stuff going on with young drivers.
What kind of accidents do you see in general, and with new drivers like me, things I should avoid?
Unfortunately, kids tend to fool around with alcohol and drugs and drive without knowing better or not realizing the danger of that. 1 out of 4 kids that we've polled have said that they've driven under the influence of alcohol and drugs. So that's a scary number. It's not just young drivers that have accidents, of course, but the things that I see quite a bit of are people getting distracted when they're driving. So talking on the telephone, cell phones, I think, have increased the rates of accidents, unfortunately. Of course, in California now you have to be hands-free, right, when you're driving. Texting is like, they say, worse than drunk driving. You take your eyes off the road, obviously, to text, and they say that just a short text is like driving across a football field with your eyes closed. So 100 yards, wow, blindfolded. Obviously not a good thing to do. So obeying the law, you know, speeding, a lot of accidents happen, of course, when you're speeding. That increases the odds of having an accident. So anyway, that's the reason why it is so expensive. But the good news is that it gets better. As you get experience, you drive better, and your rates will go down, hopefully. Yeah. That's the way rates are set up, and part of it is by law. Back in the late 1980s, they passed Proposition 103. People voted on it and approved it. And part of that says that the first 3 years of driving, you don't get what's called a good driver discount. So until you have 3 years of driving, you lose a discount that's worth about 25%. And then for the next about 11 years after that, your rate will diminish a little bit every year until you hit 30, and that's when you have the optimum rate. So that's the way costs work. Visibility is another thing that comes into play. So whenever you can't see as well as normal, like at night, you can't see as well, that's when you should be doubly careful. When you're backing up, you can't see as well when you try to look behind yourself. It's hard for everybody. I bet more accidents happen backing up than going forward, frankly. And when you think about it, you know, you not only can hit a car, but a person you could run into who's not paying attention as well. So visibility, you know, being aware of what's happening around you. And finally, I think obeying the law is important. If you don't speed, you have a better chance of reacting in time to avoid an accident. If you follow another car too closely, you may not stop in time. If that car slams its brakes on, and when I'm driving, that's the way I feel when I'm following somebody. You have to assume that they're going to slam their brakes on and leave enough room to stop if they do slam their brakes on, because you can't control what they do. If you rear end somebody, 99.9% of the time you're at fault. It doesn't matter that they slam their brakes on. What if a little kid ran out to the road in front of them slam the brakes on, what else could they do? If you hit them, you were following too close. So I would certainly anticipate the car in front of you slamming the brakes on when you drive. So you just have to drive defensively, because let's say you're driving down the lane and you look over, there's not a car there, you'd like to move over. Well, the guy on the other side's thinking the same thing, right? So if you're not paying attention, you could easily go together. So you have to sort of assume the worst. So there's also a website that Allstate developed that you can go on, and I'll give you the site where it gives a lot of other helpful ideas on what teen drivers should do. So I'm sure you'll do fine.
Okay.
Good luck.
Thanks.
All right. Bye-bye.